second for people to sprinkle in. Got a Discord. Okay, season 2 rankings is now live. Alright, why do I not have a chat? Alright, I think I'm good. Give me just 1 second. We'll be starting here. Just gonna let a few people get some background music on. L team, don't be talking about my team like that, Tom. I think we can go ahead and hop into it. So, few things before we start. We're not going to go through and like actually rank these. We're going to just wow, this music is so goddamn fucking loud. We're gonna go through just one by one in the order that they were drafted. Toad's here. My voice is very quiet. I mean, everything's pretty typical. I can't like make my keyboard quieter or my mouse. It's just kind of like how it is. I can talk a little bit louder, but the music's like just barely there. It's just kind of in case I don't talk. But anyways, I'm just gonna go one by one through how these were drafted. Anything that is worth 10 points or lower is allowed to use Z moves. That's why you see some Pokemon highlighted in the yellowish orange. Those are Pokemon that can use the Z moves. It is limited to the type that you drafted. So since I drafted Dark, I can only use Darkium Z, and that goes for every other team. So I'm here with Toad. He's one of the coaches here in the draft. You want to say hi?
What's up?
And yeah, let me know if he's like too quiet or too loud or anything. I usually don't have.
I'm talking pretty quiet. Maybe my microphone is low.
It looks alright on my end, but Toad's voice is non-existent.
I turned up my mic. Does that help?
Turn this up a little bit. Maybe this will help.
Let me look at my.
I'll say I can probably turn you up. I already have you at 200% on Discord.
I turned on my mic a lot.
That should be better. I'm just waiting on what they say. They haven't said anything yet, so.
Cool.
Okay, what are your initial thoughts on my team? That's better? Okay. Because I don't want to just, like, go, you know. I just hate talking about my own team. It's weird.
No, I understand. Team is good. Really good speed tiers. Great hazard setting. Hazard control's a little but it's fine. Because it's draft, you don't really need that. You don't have to be that.
Yeah, I think my opponent's more pressured into defogging than I am. So, like, if I really need them to defog, I'll just set up more hazards, you know?
Yeah, and you already have Pokemon that are wearing boots anyway. You have Incineroar, you have Meowscarada, you have Moltres.
I intended on grabbing Mega Sableye, but it was drafted first, like before I could even draft.
I think Dark with Mega Sableye isn't that great. I mean, I think it's kind of just it's a fairy magnet. You already have everything here is a fairy magnet. So.
That's fair. I just for the like magic bounce and, that sort of thing. But I mean, having Prankster pre Mega is important either way, which is why I still ended up picking up normal Sableye.
Sableye's good. I think overall stuff like Mega Tyranitar is a pretty big threat, but I think it's better to stick with stuff that provides more versatility. I mean, having a Tyranitar anyway is always good. You can have stuff like Mega Absol, but I think Roaring Moon does basically the same thing, just a little less. It's just a little more versatile what you could do with it. Stuff like Meowscarada. I think the biggest issue with this team, just looking at it, is that there's no longevity. You have really bad hazard control, you have no clerics, you have no wish passers, you have no healing wish, at least I think so. Yeah, I don't think you have any healing wish. Let me check.
I don't believe so, unless like...
No healing wish. So, that's like... I don't know, it's just an issue, I feel like.
It's just, my team's mostly offensive. I mean, I have 2 Intimidators, which, is nice, and Ting Lu is bulky as can be. But my offensive Pokemon are just so like frail. Like Meowscarada doesn't have much defense. Roaring Moon's all right.
I think it's compounded by don't really have many good. You don't have a great offensive core because King Gambit is awesome. Roaring Moon's awesome. Meowscarada is awesome, but Roaring Moon has to either run a Bandit set to Wall Break or it has to run D-Dance. And other than that, you don't have the strongest Pokemon in the game. Like Meowscarada, if there's a bulky resist, it's gonna take hits really well. Because Meowscarada has 110 attack. That's good for like a choice bander, but it's not super.
Yeah, I think it helps that it's Protean, so at least I'm not. I have some room to defensively change my types.
It's very hard to prep for. I think King Gambit and Roaring Moon are just under a lot of pressure. I think they're kind of forced onto a lot of your team styles in order to make progress because, like I said, you don't have longevity. So you're kind of forcing more offensive play styles.
But that's how I play normally anyway, so like it fits, like a screens hyper offense, which I didn't...
I'm saying that a screens hyper offense is better when the offensive Pokemon are a little...
Yeah, no, I understand.
Stronger. I think offense in general in a monotype setting is not as good as a balanced type team. That's not a shot on the team, it's just a shot on the meta. Yeah,
no, I get you. I'm not too much of like a monotype player anyway. I've never really played it. I felt like for draft it would be cool because I'd never see it's been done. Obviously, I just never seen one, so I'm excited for it. But
so am I.
All right, let's jump over to Rampardos,
Sure.
the mono electric team.
This is a scary team. This is really scary. The only thing, actually, I need to look a little bit. I don't like the speed tiers. I don't like it. It's too high.
It's very, very fast team.
Yeah.
But it's electric, and electric I'm pretty sure has one of the highest, like, average base speed. Yeah, so it makes sense.
Like, I don't... Yeah, I'm just worried about, like, there is 0 mana on this team. Well, there's 1 mana on this team with reliable recovery. Actually, no, Belly Bolt gets stuck off. I take that back. But,
Tapu Koko gets Roost. Zapdos gets Roost.
Oh, Tapu Koko does get Roost. But I feel the issue is, like, similar to your team, there aren't too many, like, crazy offensive threats. Like, there's a Alolan Raichu. There's Sandy Shocks. And there's Zero Aura. And Iron Thorns is, like, really easy to wall. It's like Haxorus. It's really threatening on paper, but like in practice, it's like just not that great. That's why it was cheap. Tapu Koko is obviously incredible. Rotom Wash is required in electric teams. Zapdos helps, but at the end of the day, like assuming Electrode is not doing much to help the ground matchup.
I mean, all like offensively, it's helped, but like in a defensive standpoint, it's not gonna.
And also, this is the biggest issue with the team. Palmot and Zero Aura are effectively the same Pokemon because Palmot can't run Revival Blessing. And Zero Aura is the Palmot in every single way possible. There's no reason to have Palmot on the team.
Yeah, I mean, Palmot's a little bit stronger, a tad, and it does get the fighting stab.
Also, Belly Bolt and Rotom Wash are effectively the same, but Rotom Wash is better in every single way, except for recovery. Because Rotom Wash has a better typing, it has stab on 100 pump, and it has good utility.
Is there anything that you would recommend to add to this team to make it better?
I recommend picking up a low guy. I know that's just what that's how I draft, but I think it actually can help because you can pick up something that probably I don't know, grab Charge Bug. Is Charge Bug an electric type?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, grab Charge Bug, get webs. And you can run your...
Does Charge Bug get sticky web?
I'm pretty sure it does. I can check though.
Yeah, I'm not. I thought it was only Vigor Volt.
It also gets Baton Pass, so you can it has Volt Switch too.
I'm just taking a look here on any offensive higher tier electric types that are left. I think the problem is the options are very limited. I think for what there is, the team is good. I mean, Galvantula's there. Galvantula's 9 points. That's a pretty...
I would take Charger Bug. I think, honestly, here's something that's going to sound ridiculous. Switch Palmot for Pikachu.
I mean, Light Ball Pikachu is kind of wild.
Yeah. Also, it's a really important speed tier in draft. Base 90 is very important. Covering that speed tier is very important. And Zapdos wants to run. Zapdos can do it, but Zapdos isn't as threatening as Pikachu.
That's fair.
It also gives you really good priority, which you don't have. I mean, all I can say is just overall, Electric is kind of a limiting type, so I don't really blame the draft. It's a great draft for what it is. But
yeah, no, it's the type. It's one of those situations where normal type, normal type, the draft is good, but it's just because of the type.
It's good on okay, this Electric is great in on ladder, because you can run all the crazy broken Electric types. But in draft, you have to be a little more strategic about what you pick, and especially in a 16-person draft, you're gonna get sniped a lot.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Iron Hands would have been perfect. Iron Hand, Killer Watcher would have been great.
Which I'm pretty sure he had stated he wanted Iron Hands, but it got taken very early.
Iron Hands instead of Palmot, that's perfect. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, you can have both Alolan Raichu and Pikachu. You just couldn't have both Alolan Raichu and regular Raichu, or you couldn't have multiple Rotom forms if it shares a Dex number.
Honestly, I think Pikachu would be great. I think Pikachu's actually... I've been using it in lower tiers. It's very, very good.
Any team without a ground type, though, is going to struggle to be taking some of these terrain boosted...
Oh,
no, yeah, on the receiving end. Surge Surfer Alolan Raichu is going to be, I think be decently strong, nasty plot, choice specs.
This gets Rising Voltage, right? It does not. Wait, no, I'm looking at Gen 9. Never mind. Yes, it does get Rising Voltage.
Yeah, so that's stupid strong.
It gets all your typical Pikachu coverage. You have Grass Knot, Knockoff, Volt Switch, Nasty Plot.
Surf.
It's Trailblaze too if you want to be stupid.
Physical, right? Alolan Raichu.
It gets Mud Slap.
I mean, Alolan Raichu's attack is only 10 points lower than its special attack.
I meant Trailblaze for just to
boost speed. Well, when you have Surge Surfer, it's not really,
Yeah. Okay, I think, overall, it's a good draft.
Yeah.
Not much to complain about.
All right, moving on to Derpster.
The more you look at this draft, the better it gets. Poison is a great type.
I like it. I think for the type, it's really good. I don't know about the Monkey Dory first pick. I know it's a new Pokemon and all. I just don't think it's going to be that good.
It's also a massive snipe. I really wanted that. I found out that Latios is actually in the same tier, so I just got Latios because it's objectively way better.
Yeah. I think Monkey Dory's problem is Steel types just wall it. You have to hit Focus Blast. It has the same problem. I'm just saying generally, for that Pokemon on its own, so.
Okay, so there's a really big speed gap between Iron Moth and Mega Beedrill, and that's a problem because Crobat is not an offensive threat. Sneasler is a Sneasler.
Well, it's not even Sneasler, it's Sneasel.
I thought I meant Sneasel. Yeah, Sneasler is crazy big. Sneasel. Let me look at this thing. Okay, stats aren't bad.
No, I think it's pretty equal to
How many
traditional.
points is this?
It was 2.
Yeah, good little guy.
Yeah, it worked out.
Really offensive little guys are worse, but
I like Haunter a lot, like just as a Pokemon in draft.
Haunter is great.
I've drafted it like a couple times. It's always like decent. It hits a good speed tier, and it's really strong. 115 is for a not fully evolved Pokemon.
Yeah, it gets Nasty Plot.
I forgot that they got Nasty Plot now.
It has your Fairy, Grass coverage. You have Haze. You have all these moves. Yeah, Haunter's a great pick. I think like overall it's just really really good. You have you have double regen. You have a really good defensive core. Your issue is psychic types.
Which Muck is there? Like Assault Vest Muck, I think because you're the person who drafted Psychic.
Yeah, and Muck does completely destroy my team.
Yeah, so if you don't have something with like Earthquake or something,
Oh, I got Hoopa. Hoopa can deal with it.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I have Jirachi. Jirachi just sits there and
just
takes
flinches it.
No, it just sits there and just takes 30 from knockoff. Because Jirachi's stupid broken and is way too cheap at 14.
Dude, I noticed Manaphy sitting in 14. I can't believe we let that slide. We're gonna get to something.
I mean, they didn't pick it though, so it's okay.
There's one Pokemon that we're gonna get to later that's allowed to use a Z move, and I can't believe that it got allowed. We'll get to it later, but
I'm looking at 10.1. I'm gonna try and guess what it is.
It's drafted, so.
Is it 10 points?
Yeah, I think it was 10 points.
Wyvern?
No.
Is it Cabalion?
No.
It's Gyarados.
It's Gyarados. It gets flying drafted it, and so it gets Fly Z bounce, and I'm like, holy shit! I can't believe everyone missed that.
Okay, we'll get to flying.
Yeah, that's a little bit ahead, but
yeah, I feel like I haven't analyzed this team much. Honestly, this is a great good team. The only thing I'm noticing is there's a lack of defensive momentum. So the thing that makes a good defensive Pokemon is if it gets a U-turn or pivoting move, because if you don't, every time you switch that Pokemon in, it's a momentum sink. Your opponent could just switch out into something and threaten it. That's why the best defensive Pokemon have like U-turn. The best defensive Pokemon have like teleport or something.
Yeah, which is like why Pelipper overtook Politoed, because it had just literally U-turn.
Yeah, so it creates momentum sinks. That's why Galarian Weezing isn't as good as it could be, because neutralizing gas is arguably the best ability in the game. So it doesn't have any way to switch out. So it creates a momentum sink, so you can get advantage. That's the only real problem with this team. Iron Moth, Nidoking, Mega Beedrill is an incredible offensive core. Monkey Dory is super threatening. People are gonna learn. Double regen. You have Alolan Muck. It's a great draft.
I was gonna say, like, when you say the whole, momentum killing with the switch moves too, the double regenerator core, I mean, kind of has that same issue too. Neither of them get even baton pass to, switch out, but at least since they have regenerator, it kind of helps. It's just when they share the psychic weakness, it's rough. You can't really easily switch between the two of them as you could, in like a normal draft if you had like, Tornadus and different types to help pivot. All right, let's move on to Sand's team. Mono Water. We had before we started the stream, we had conflicting thoughts on this team. Huge grass weakness. No resist, which little rough. That's a good point too. It is a very physically based team, besides like the Walking Wake, which the Walking Wake can't even get its like full potential since it's not under sun. You know, it can still use the photosynthesis with a booster energy, but you know, like flamethrower, it won't get like the sun boost. Hydro Steam will still get boosted by rain, but the sun is just so much better, in my opinion, for Walking Wake. Yeah, Draco and Araquanid are both, or Walking Wake and Araquanid are both, and Dracovish. Yeah, and Dracovish are all neutral to grass, but still, like, not having a resistance is rough, you know? It's those three are still going to take, you know, 30-40-ish% from a grass move, depending, you know, on what it comes from. Okay, so Toad had to go, so I guess I'm just going to be finishing this on my own. So those first couple were going to be in depth, and now you guys are just stuck with me. I'm sorry. Toad was saying he really liked this team. He thinks it's very threatening, and on that side I can kind of agree with it, because like Urshifu, Rapid Strike, Dracovish, Mega Swampert, like those three, plus I mean even Palafin and Walking Wake in the rain from Politoed are super threatening. And if it wasn't for the fact that the Politoed can't use Damp Rock, it would be way more threatening. If it got the full 8 turns, this would be a terrifying team. The only thing that kind of I was unsure of is the overall like type diversity. You know, like Politoed, pure water type, Suicune, pure water type, Palafin, pure water type, and then, you know, Clamperl, Pyukumuku, Floatzel, all pure water types. So, you know, that's and then back when I, you know, was saying the grass weakness, that's kind of the, you know, the same thing. And it's kind of the same thing with electric. You know, mind there is Mega Swampert, but besides that, it's really going to struggle with you know, those types. You know, even something like flying or psychic, there's no resists. So I think defensively this team is gonna be struggling a little bit. Offensively though, it's gonna be ripping things apart. So very, you know, very just hyper offensive. Yeah, I was shocked that mono water Pokemon were drafted very early on, and that they didn't pick up Pelipper, but Politoed is still good, so I think it'll be perfectly fine. Next, we're going to move on to Ager's team. Mono Ice, and the person who had the most points left over at the end of their draft. 19 remaining points is wild. Also, I think has the most Z-Move users, because most of these Pokemon were low in points. Pre-Gen 9, I would have said that Ice is the worst type. But now that there is, A, heavy-duty boots, B, getting the defense boost in snow is huge, and C, the first 2 Pokemon of this draft, Chien-Pao and Baxcalibur, are 2 fantastic offensive threats that were introduced this generation. We all know what Chien-Pao does. It lowers your defense, and it literally just rips your team to pieces. I think Cetitan would have been a really cool pick. Mega Abomasnow is like it doesn't cover a weakness that this team has. You know, like, it just actually makes the fire weakness worse. So I can kind of see why. And Mega Glalie could be interesting. You know, it gets Refrigerate. You know, just explode, do some huge damage. But yeah, the Cetitan, I am shocked that wasn't grabbed. But Baxcalibur is going to be a huge threat now that it gets both Scale Shot and then Alolan Ninetales to have Veil. I think a lot of people are going to be running, you know, trying to run Brick Break or Psychic Fangs or even Defog just to be able to handle the Veil from Alolan Ninetales. Cloyster is a pretty big pickup as well. Shell Smash does huge things. the entire team is weak to rock, so I see a lot of heavy-duty boots coming. You got Articuno, Avalugg, and Cloyster that all remove hazards. But even then, like, it's just going to be a problem, an ongoing problem, I feel, for not just this team, but any team that's weak to rock. So, fire and flying. Bug wasn't drafted, so they don't have to worry about it. But I think that Aegir will be able to get through it. One Pokemon I would have thought would get drafted would be Frostlass, so that there was a fighting immunity. But I think Articuno can handle them decently. It's not the most defensive Pokemon. Also, the 3 water types was kind of smart, just since it helps with fire, and Walrein having thick fat gives it actually a resist on the team to fire that otherwise Aegir wouldn't have. I'm trying to look and see what other ice types were available, if there was like anything else, just with how many remaining points were left over. But Galarian Darmanitan's up there, but I personally don't like Galarian Darmanitan. I think it's just very one-dimensional when it comes to draft. Like in draft you want to bring unexpected things, and you always, unless you're running Zen mode, you always have to run like a Choice Band or Choice Scarf. So it just isn't the best. So Titan's up there in 10. There aren't that many options, but Ice is also just not like a plentiful type either. Glastrier in 8, not really good. Yeah, so I think besides the Titan, I like the picks that were made for what was available and not sniped. I think Kyurem was grabbed pretty early, but when you have Baxcalibur, I doubt he wanted to double up on dragon types. Alright, we're going to go on to Fairy. This team is really scary. Who do you, your first matchup is who? Let me look. Oh, you play Ice, okay. Kieran was I think it was, let me look. Oh yeah, Kieran was grabbed, a lot later than I thought it was. Okay, anyway, on to Fairy. I think this team is very threatening. Got Sticky Web support from Cutiefly, because this team is relatively slow. There is, Iron Valiant, which does have the booster energy speed, so it can get up there. But without that, I think there's a lot of other teams that have faster threats. But, offensively, Iron Valiant can either be, physical or special, very scary. Mega Diancie has base 160 in both of its offenses as well, so that's huge. Enamorus is really strong. It can either run, a superpower contrary, you can run special, Calm Mind, choice specs. Pheasantipity, I think it's overpriced for what it's probably can do. Obviously, it's still new, so we're not, fully sure. But, I think 13 is too much for it, but it's just kind of one of those things that we have to figure out by using it. Klefki is a fantastic mod. I love it in draft, being able to prankster Thunderwave, Toxic, set up spikes, set up screens. Sylveon and Florges, though, I'm unsure of. Oh yeah, I went through with a couple people and altered everything, and then I also posted the doc a couple days, a little bit early, and was like, hey, I'll make any changes. And so people were recommending stuff, and I actually put up a vote for Pheasantipity, and it was voted to go into 13. So, but like I was saying, Sylveon and Florges, I feel, serve the same purpose. They're both Wish Passers. They're both clerics. They're both pure fairy type, and they're both very specially defensive. So I don't know if the Florges pick, was the best option. I think maybe I haven't looked at the board, but maybe either Sylveon or Florges could have been replaced with something else. I'm taking a look now. I think Togekiss up in 13 points would have been a really cool option. Florges was 8. Slurpuff is an 8. I know you got Cutiefly already, but Rabambi's there as well. But yeah, I think there could have been a little bit more versatility just with those two. Just they do pretty much the same thing. I guess the one thing is Florges does get Defog and Sylveon doesn't. But besides that, pretty similar. Speed tiers all look pretty great. A couple repeating ones like the 75 and the 60, but I don't think that's anything too bad. And I also like the Granbull and Doxbun picks because those just kind of serve some defensive utility that the team was, at least physically defensive utility that the team was struggling with previously. Because Sylveon and Florges both have very good special defense. So yeah, I like the fairy draft, and this is actually who I play week 1, and I'm very scared. Iron Valiant is just a huge threat for my team. Alright, we got Mono Ghost. This was the other type I was considering. I was between Dark and Ghost, and I ended up picking Dark. I like this team quite a bit. They have both of the Ghost and Steel types in Aegislash and Goldango, and they serve very different roles, and so I think Poison was the third drafted type. It was picked by Derpster. We already went over it a little bit ago. But Aegislash and Goldango serve two pretty different roles, and so them sharing a type doesn't really, have any issues. This team has a huge weakness to Dark and opposing Ghost types. Hisuian Zoroark was picked up very quickly, so I actually believe it was the first round pick for normal. Yeah, so this team didn't even have a chance to grab Hisuian Zoroark, which is the only, besides, if you've got like Mega Sableye, which this team had a Mega Sableye, they did drop it in free agents, or in the grace period, I mean. Pretty big speed gap between Spectrier and Frostlass, and then near the end, it doesn't get to like the slowest. Like base 60 is the lowest. Isn't the slowest thing in the world, but I don't think that's gonna matter. Oh yeah, normal needed Zoroark so much more, so it makes sense that normal picked it first. But it would have helped this team a lot too, especially now that they don't have a Ghost Dark type to help, like either make a Sableye or Spiritomb. But, I mean, Poltergeist is a huge threat with Shell Smash. Spectrier is huge. Bramblegast, for only 4 points, that was something that we overlooked, because that got access to Poltergeist, and so I definitely would have made that worth, like 6 or 7 points, but they got it for 4, so, good for them. Yeah, picking up Steel early on is rough, but the Steel draft actually looks amazing. They didn't really get sniped anything like crazy, but we'll get to that. That's actually the second to last, the last one. And remember, these are not in any order. I'm going in draft order, so don't think that like I ranked myself first and yeah. I think that this team, though, is going to struggle from a very similar thing that my team is going to struggle from. That being, there's not much defense on this team. And I know Ghosts aren't, known for being defensive powerhouses or anything. But Aegislash being probably the most defensive Pokemon on this team is not good. this team's locked into being a hyper offensive play style, and none of these Pokemon really have like the best screen support either. So like no prankster screens or even like I'm looking right now. So Ceruledge gets both Light Screen and Reflect. Poltergeist gets it as well. But these are just Pokemon that don't want to be screen setters, For both Light Screen and Reflect, those are the only two that get both. I assume a few of these get, one or the other. But still, I do think that that's going to be the biggest downfall for this team, is just defensively. Like something with like a Choice Scarf Dark move or a Choice Scarf like Ghost move is just going to tear this team apart, unfortunately. Yeah, you had the Mega Sableye, which I wanted that. I was kind of upset, and I didn't notice you dropped it in free agency, but I think that was a decent pick. At least, it helped with the Dark and Ghost weaknesses, and it gets Prankster pre-Mega, and you're not forced to Mega first turn. You have to hold the stone, but you're not forced to do it, so that you could have still, maybe had screens, but, yeah. It's a good team, like, Ghost isn't a defensive type. It's not supposed to be, so it's a downfall of the type, not a downfall of your draft. Okay, Tom is asking we skip to his before he goes, so I'm gonna go ahead and skip to Tom. We'll go back. So, Tom drafted Mono Fighting. Let me take a look. So, first thing I'm noticing is, besides Sneasler, and again, this is just a flaw of the fighting type, besides Sneasler, fighting is just a very slow type. Second thing, when did Heracross learn Spikes? Is that a new Gen 9 thing? I did not know that. That's actually pretty cool. Anyway, the only form of hazard removal this entire team has is Defog Girder, which Girder's a great Pokemon with Eviolite. It's just, it would have been nice to maybe, Tom, you did ask me quite a few times, and maybe Hitmontop, would have been a decent option. I hadn't realized how hard pressed your hazard control was. Aside from those two little things, you got Urshifu, so that's a good psychic switch in. And then you have a couple, halfway decent answers to flying in Lucario and Iron Hands. I know you're really excited for the Pignite pickup, and I can't wait to see how you use that. For 1 point, I hope it's going to be cool. And I actually think Lucario is a really good Z-move user. I'm excited to see, if that happens at all, a Z close combat or even a Z focus blast, so you don't have to chance the miss. Could be really cool. Besides that, I like Annihilate quite a lot. It if you can get that Rage Fist built up, huge threat. That is true. Urshifu would get blasted by a fairy move, and you got Pignite. Pignite's your dedicated fairy switch in, because it's not like Sneasler or Lucario are really, defensive powerhouses that are switching into those fairy moves. So yeah, just the speed tier and the hazard control are a little rough, but not much that can be done to fix that. Kind of sucks that your Sneasler is going to kind of be locked into going, doing like a normal gym fake out or a wider close combat. Before the draft had started, Tom thought that Tapu Bulu was grass and fighting type, and so his plan was to pick up Sneasler and Tapu Bulu, and he quickly realized that that was not possible. I really like the Keldeo and Lucario picks, though, because it gives you two special threats that that this team, would struggle with, just because fighting types are so physically, offensive naturally. So it'll help, break through any physical walls, like Corviknight or, anything else. So intimidate users, which that's another thing as well. I'm trying to look. I believe Inner Focus from Lucario can't be intimidated. So, that's interesting. Yeah, so that's about all I gotta say on that. We're gonna go back here to Wolf now. Mono Grass, which was it was good, Ryan. It was a good time. I felt like shit this morning, but we're here now, so. So Mono Grass was considered to be like top, I think, 3 worst types in the, or maybe top 4 in the entire draft, but it went relatively early. I was shocked, but I think that this grass type team is very threatening. Oh yeah, fighting is always gonna. Are you referring to this one being another physical one? Because this one is as well. Yeah, I think some of these picks, though, are awesome. Mega Venusaur going first makes complete sense to me, since Thick Fat, is resistant now to, neutral to fire and ice. It's just a huge pickup. Torterra getting Shell Smash this generation is super awesome. And I know Wolf was really excited to pick up Torterra, which is why they picked it up second. Zarude, so glad that it got knockoff this generation. It's one of those things where I can't believe it went so long without having knockoff. So it's a huge threat. I was cool with either Meowscarada or Zarude, so when he drafted Zarude, I was like, alright, that's cool. Like, I'm fine with Meowscarada. Alright, Tom. Sounds good. I'm excited. Let me... I'm just messaging Toad back real quick. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, so Rillaboom, having the grassy terrain is going to help support this team, make the grass moves stronger, and just give, overall reliable, or not reliable, but just small, little doses of recovery to the team. Rotom-Mow is, I think, a really decent Pokemon for, I'm blanking, for Mono Grass. Jeez. Because it helps resist, or not resist, but it's at least neutral to the flying moves. The only other Pokemon that helps do that is Kartana, which, on the physical side, Kartana can handle flying moves decently, but on the special side, it's not really going to be doing that with that base 31 Spadef. Yeah, so Rotom, great pickup. Trevenant was only 3 points, so I definitely think that was a really good value pick. Whimsicott is a great prankster user, so I like that. The speed tier, it being the fastest thing, isn't like the greatest thing. The team's kind of top heavy almost with speed. Like, I guess that's kind of weird. It's not the fastest team in the world, but like the speed tiers are 116, 110, 19, 105, and then there's a gap. There's a decent gap, and I guess that's kind of what I'm saying is like if there could have been something to fill that in, it would have been cool, but that's all right. If they would have been able to pick up Hisui and Electrode, which it was sniped it would have made this team, have that. Having the second fastest Pokemon in the game is always helpful to anyone. So it's all right though. Whimsicott gets Tailwind, so if it wanted to, which isn't the best in singles, but it is an option. It could do that. Cortana is just the huge offensive, physical threat. I'm excited to see how Ogerpon does. Without Terra, I don't think it's going to be as good because all of the Ogerpon forms benefit a lot from that. But it was only this one and the Fire one that were picked up, and I think the Fire one is more hurt by yeah, I definitely think either Ogerpon Water or Ludicolo would have been nice for this team to have a fire resist, and I'm pretty sure that Ogerpon and Ogerpon Water are worth the same amount of points. I'm checking that now. Yeah, they are. So I'm actually kind of shocked. I guess the fact that the Water Ogerpon has to hold the mask is why they drafted regular, since it gets it's not limited. But I think either way it's a good pick. Scovillain helps with that fire weakness a little bit. I don't think Scovillain though is like a defensive staple by any means. It's actually it's got base 65 in HP and defenses, which is really low. I hadn't noticed that before. And then last, there's Chestnut. I like Chestnut. I think that it benefits, though, a lot from, Terra, which there's no Terra in this metagame. So, it having that 4 times flying weakness, it's cool to have a fighting type. But for 9 points, I think maybe there could have been something with a little more value. But that's just me. 3 good defoggers. The hazards setup is a little rough. Ogerpon really isn't going to want to run spikes, and Torterra can run stealth rocks, but I think Torterra wants to be more offensive on this just team composition. So it really just comes down to Chestnut, and when you don't have rapid spin, it's not gonna like that. All right, moving on to Gamer Person. This is where I was talking about the Flyinium Z Gyarados. Z Bounce Gyarados is going to be a threat, and I'm super excited to see that come. The speed tiers I think are all right. Decent gap between Kilowattrel and Mega Aerodactyl, but Mega Aerodactyl is so fast that I don't think it's going to matter. Very interesting to have the 2 rock flying types in Mega Aerodactyl and Archeops. But Archeops is only worth 6 points, and it's really strong for what it is. And it does get Endeavor, so it can do some Endeavor Focus Sash shenanigans. But for 6 points, personally, I'm looking, and Minior is sitting right there. I think Shell. I really like Minior personally. I think Shell Smash Minior would have been really cool. Give me 1 second. I got a little tickle in my throat. Okay. Whew. How you doing, Tyler? Welcome in. Okay. Back to what I was saying. Yeah, so I think Minior might have been cooler. Instead of Archeops, but Archeops is pretty powerful, so I think it's fine. Both Gligar and Kilowattrel are on this team for electric immunities, so electric is, I think, going to be covered pretty well. Ice is still a bit threatening, but Ice Beam being the most common ice move, Mantine can eat those up with its huge special defense stat, as well as Celesteela. I think out of all of the steel flying types, Celesteela is probably the most well-rounded. Corviknight's also there. Either of those would have worked, but I like Celesteela with this team. Plenty of defoggers, so I don't think that there's going to be like a heavy duty boot issue. You know, you just dedicate 1 or 2 mons to defog, and then the rest can run, you know, like separate items. See, like ice can be scary, but when you have Celesteela, Gyarados, and then again Mantine, you know, being able to just sponge ice beams, I don't think ice will be a problem. I don't. I think if anything, rock is a little bit just not stealth rocks or anything, but like actual like rock moves like Rock Slide or Stone Edge are a little bit more threatening than ice moves, but I could be wrong, you know. I think the combination, just like Bolt Beam coverage of like electric and ice moves together, though, will cause this team difficulty. It's going to be just mind games, because it's like, oh, do I go Kilowattrel or Gligar on a Thunderbolt, or do I go Mantine or Celesteela on an Ice Beam? And if that prediction is, Arctozolt being a prime example, that's exactly what I'm saying, yes. It's going to be so predicted reliant, so I'm intrigued to see, you know, how that goes. Definitely. Alright, moving on to Starry. Sorry if I'm, like, going through this fast without, like, someone here to co-host. I just, you know, it's not as easy. Un momento, 1 second. God, I got, like, something stuck in my throat. Jeez. Let me turn up the music now, by the way, since it's just me. I didn't realize it was just like silent in the background, my bad. Okay, on to Starry's team. Starry has Mono Dragon, and I think that this is a really, really scary team. First, Dragapult going 3rd round is absolutely wild. Obviously, you know, not everyone could draft it, but I mean, Dragapult is arguably one of the best draft Pokemon ever. And to pair that, you know, with like Garchomp, Noivern, Latios, and Kyurem is absolutely terrifying. So you think my team is the best? We talked about it a little bit earlier. These aren't in any particular order. I'm just going through them in the draft order, so you can go back and you can see how Toad was here to talk about my team. But yeah, having the two Steel types in Hisuian Gudra and Duraludon is going to help. Plus, also Dragalge helps with the Fairy weakness as well as the Dragon weakness, and you got Mega Altaria there as well to handle dragons. It's immune. I think Mega Altaria is probably one of the best picks on this draft. Only Dragon could pick it, which is why he picked it last. It makes sense. Tatsugiri, I think it's a decent pick. I think it's better than like Kingdra just because of it's stronger, faster, and it gets, you know, Nasty Plot, Rapid Spin. Latios is a good pick. You know, it's a little bit cheaper than Latios, and it's a little bit more defensive. The speed tiers are also pretty decent. There's a little bit of a gap between Hakamo'o and Mega Altaria, but nothing bad. Wait, what? How could you be? He must be behind. Yeah, I think Tyler's behind. The message confused me. The ice weakness, I think, is pretty managed on this team. You know, Gudra, Tatsugiri, Duraludon, and Kyurem all resisted. Like, I think Starry did an amazing job of covering his bases of the dragon type weakness, you know, the ice, the fairy, and dragon. I think this is so well rounded and such a scary team. I haven't looked, but I honestly I hope this is one of the teams I don't play. Just because of how well rounded it is. You think Dragon, Fairy, Dark are the best? Okay. Next we have Fire. I like this draft quite a bit. I love the pairing of Torkoal plus Mega Houndoom. It makes perfect sense. Mega Houndoom gets solar power. The only thing is it's a little bit limited, just since Torkoal can't run Heat Rock. But I mean, all of the weather teams kind of are having that issue. Here's the big thing, and I said this earlier. This team has the item slot syndrome, where this team pretty much has to run heavy duty boots. Like Volcarona has, no matter how much hazard control you have in your team, if Volcarona doesn't have heavy duty boots and you fail to maintain hazard control, it's just not good. It's gonna struggle. Tauros is the only Pokemon on this team that doesn't take 25% coming in, and there is. When did Turtonator get Rapid Spin? I did not know that. That's cool. But having Torkoal, Turtonator as your Rapid Spinners, Turtonator I don't see being the most consistently coming Pokemon, so it's mainly just Torkoal as a Rapid Spinner, which is probably going to come every week, so that's fine. And the Defoggers are also alright. Ogerpon doesn't get to run boots. It has to run the mask. Which is fine still, because that gives it a 20% boost to all of its moves. I don't think it's really going to be upset from that. And the Defoggers are cool. You got Talonflame, I think, is a really, really good Defogger. Same with Rotom Heat is really decent. Volcarona isn't really going to want to run Defog all that often. Rock overall, like just looking at like rock moves, that's going to be a huge problem. At least Tauros, has Intimidate, so if it wanted, if there's something with like Stone Edge or Rock Slide, at least it can also weaken, while being neutral, it's also weakening those hits. Typhlosion being able to use Fire EMZ, I think, is going to be really cool, so it can let off, like a Z Eruption in the sun, which, if I think it's like a Flash Fire boost, that is going to do some huge damage. And then the hazards on like your side, Stealth Rocks from Torkoal, Spikes from Ogerpon, I don't think are going to matter too much, since this team is going to need to prioritize Defog more than like setting up hazards. I think Ogerpon would be so much more threatening on this team though if it did have Terra, since the Fire Ogerpon gets the 1+1 attack boost upon switching, but alas, without Terra, that is not an option. Up next, we have Terra Normal, and Terra Normal has the unfortunate circumstance of Normal just being a really bad type for Monotype. It's very limiting in the type, Pokemon you can get. Like, there is no Steel type option. There's no normal Steels. Your only normal Fairy type option is Wigglytuff, which at one point was sniped. It was dropped during Grace, but besides the point. It's very hard, like the only normal water type is Babarrel, so that's just not the best. And if it wasn't for Zoroark, Hisuian Zoroark, this team would struggle, even more due to fighting types. But with that being said, this is a decent combination of Mons. The speed tiers they start off really well. You got Mega Lopunny at 135, then Swallow at 125, Cyclizar, Zoroark. Zoroark and Grafai sharing isn't the biggest deal, since Grafai gets Unburdened. It's stupid fast. The huge thing I'm seeing is the 30-point gap between Porygon Z and Beware. I feel like that's going to have a little bit of issue there. But besides that, I think this is a good combination of Mons for the type. It was drafted well. The fighting type weakness is managed good with Hisuian Zoroark, Meloetta, Swellow, Indeedee, Grafai. So, for the type, awesome job. Props And we'll see, how this goes. Hopefully you can pull it out. Chansey's a huge, special wall. So special attacks aren't going to be, a huge problem for this team. I do see, like physical, though, being a little bit more threatening. There isn't a huge physical wall on this team. You do have Beware with Fluffy, but that's only for contact moves. So we'll see. Cyclos are not getting Shed Tail. Also sucks. That's a banned move on it. But I think it's a better Dragon-type option than Drampa, which I believe are the only two normal Dragon types, at least that I can think of off the top of my head. And I'm also excited to see Blood Moon Ursaluna in action. I think that thing is going to be a huge, huge demon. Oh, and then also, Porygon Z getting Normalium Z with adaptability is going to be just wild. Excited to see that. Yes, this team has a ton of Z-move users. I don't think many of them are gonna, use it though. Like Chansey's not using a Z-move ever. Ever. Alright, we got Toad's team. Mono Psychic. Huge speed gap between the Mega Alakazam and the Latios. 40 points is massive. Looking through, the Ghost and Dark matchups are going to be interesting for this team. Because me being, having the Dark one, I think is a bit more manageable since, Tapu Lele is a Fairy type, Rapidash is also a Fairy type, as well as Hoopa. But when it comes to Ghost, which I believe Toad fights week 1, I think he's going to struggle quite a bit, with only Hoopa being the switch-in. Which, Hoopa's Spidef is really good, but it's not taking, like, a U-turn or anything. Indeedee would have helped a bit with the Ghost, yeah, I agree. And at least then it would have given him another Psychic Terrain setter as well, since, neither of them can hold Terrain Extender. Switch between Tapu Lele and Indeedee. I think him going, both Jirachi and Celebi is pretty smart, since, they both have base 100 stats across the board. They're both pretty well-rounded Pokemon. Jirachi's obviously amazing, gets Serene Grace, Iron Head, and for 14 points, I mean, that's a steal. Mega Alakazam using Expanding Force in Psychic Terrain is going to be a threat. I mean, anything using Expanding Force in Psychic Terrain is going to be a huge threat. Only form of hazard control being Latios, though, is not good, because Latios doesn't want to be running Defog every week. Yes, he can use Relic Song because it just changes from a normal Psychic to a normal Fighting type. So it still stays normal. So yeah, they can use Relic Song. But yeah, so Latios doesn't want to be locked into Defog. Natu is there with Magic Bounce, but Natu is not going to be living many hits. It's very, very frail. Correct, yes. If Toad would have grabbed Meloetta, it could not use Relic Song, because it would have no longer been a Psychic type. Yep. Yeah, but Toad is a great player. So I think he's going to be able to overcome these issues. Another weakness I didn't talk about, Bug. I think he covers that all right. Rapidash, Delphox, Jirachi, and Tapu Lele. Plus, no one drafted Bug, so it's just kind of like the very few and far between Bug types that are kind of running around. I don't think many people drafted many Bugs overall. Like, looking through, I didn't. Electric didn't. Mega Beedrill, Araquanid, Cutiefly. Oh, you gotta watch out for that one. That one's fucking terrifying. Wow. That's about it. I'm surprised Steel didn't pick up one. Which, yeah, literally just U-turn. U-turn's going to be the biggest thing. But moving on to Steel, I think that this was an amazing draft. So Steel is one of those typings that in Monotype, Steel is a great type. We all know that. But in Monotype, I don't think it's, at least in a draft format, it's not going to be good. A lot of people didn't think so. And I mean, that's kind of shown by it being the second to last typing that was picked overall. And that is mainly because it's, so like Empoleon and Heatran are the only Steel Fire and Steel Water types respectively. And so there's so much room to be sniped because obviously Fire wants a Steel type as well. Water typically wants a Steel type as well. And so for this team to be getting all of these just great Pokemon without being sniped is amazing. Mega Mawile, amazing. Heatran, amazing. Ferrothorn, amazing. Empoleon, like, none of these Pokemon are bad. They all do their own, thing. Two great Rapid Spinners, two great Defog users. Empoleon obviously got buffed this generation, so it's such a threat. And like Tyler said, look at all of those resistances. It is huge. The only thing this team would have wanted is a Ghost Steel type, which I believe Aegislash was available. It just, with the points, it wasn't quite an option, is my guess. And so, it's going to have a little bit of an issue with fighting types. I think Corviknight, Bronzong, and Mawile will be able to handle it enough. And then you got both Bronzong and Corviknight to help with ground types. Ground types really struggle. Typically, they struggle with breaking through Corviknight. So I think that this is an amazing draft. And speed tiers aren't something I really want to, get on this draft with, because Steel is a slow type. It's not supposed to be fast. So the fastest thing being Cobalion, and then the speed tiers being relatively slow in the 60s and 50s, doesn't matter for this team. It is supposed to be like that, and there's nothing that could have been done to fix that, unfortunately. And holy shit, look at all those Stealth Rockers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Yeah, I love this team. I think if Heatran or Empoleon or one of those wouldn't have been available, it would have hindered this team a lot more. Yeah, that's how they beat Mono Fire. They're just going to set up Stealth Rocks and then just knock off. I mean, 5 knockoff users as well is nice. So, all right, and the last team we have Mono Ground. So looking at this team, first thing is going to be the speed tiers. Toadskrull being the fastest thing at base 100 is rough, to say the least. The one redeeming thing is there is the Excadrill plus Hippowdon combination, so at least Excadrill's speed will get doubled. That's going to be the best option for this team. Sand, in my opinion, is the worst weather in this format, which is so weird to say because Sand, has historically been a very good weather. But since rock types are the ones that get the Spadef boost, you'd have to draft a rock and ground type for that to be useful, and this team did not, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, I totally agree. I wouldn't want, 2 quad weaknesses to water and grass. So I think it limits Sand, because outside of Excadrill, the only other Pokemon that takes advantage of it, for the most part, you could say Gastrodon does with Sand Force, but it's going to be using Storm Drain pretty much all the time, is Mega Steelix. But even then, I think Excadrill just has the same typing and just does that better. Yeah, Mega Steelix gets it, but again, Excadrill just it does it better, in my opinion. I mean, Mega Steelix does have a decent attack stat, so it could, be useful. I think Sandforce would be better if it just gave an overall attack boost and not just an attack boost to certain types of moves. tons of hazards. I mean, stealth rock spikes, toxic spikes, you name it. Like, no worries there. And a huge complement to all of those hazards is 3 fantastic rapid spin users in Great Tusk, one of the greatest rapid spin users, Excadrill, another one of the GOATs when it comes to rapid spin users, and I think Toadscruel has a decent role here. And Landorus has Defog, but with all the hazards on this team, I don't think Defog is really going to be a huge thing for this team. So I like it. It could have been a bit faster, but I don't really know what other ground types would have been available that are fast, you know, so it might just be kind of one of those things where it's the type. I mean, Doug Trio exists, which would have been interesting since it can trap with Arena Trap. Crocodile's there, but that's not, you know, anything fast, so yeah, I mean, maybe for the most part it's just a slower type, and I really hadn't realized. Or just the faster, you know, ground types were already picked. So, yeah. But I think that is going to be it for the power rankings. I wish Toad could have been here to wrap up and finish things up with me. Would have been nice, but you know, things happen. He just got busy, and yeah, I once again didn't want to, you know, actually rank these. I didn't want to, you know, it's really hard to because it's monotype, so it's just different. It's not like it's open, you know. And then there's 16 coaches, so it's like I can order them, but it's like spots, you know, literally like 1 through 14, maybe even 15 are probably all interchangeable, give or take. And so I didn't see a point in it, which is why we just kind of decided to go through and do it one by one. But yeah, if you enjoyed, leave a like. Thanks for hanging out. Week 1 is going to be starting next week on Monday. If you have any questions, just message me. We didn't rank them. It just wasn't worth it. It just didn't seem, you know, necessary. Yeah, because like some types are just limited by being a bad type. So why say someone had a bad draft when it's just they didn't get the best typing, you know? So, all right, I'm ending it. Thank you guys for hanging out, and yeah, that's it. Peace.